Tribe originally resided in the Great Plains in the modern-day states of Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, and Arkansas. This is different from the Wichita tribe, who lived in southern Kansas into northern Texas. The Comanche tribe originally lived in Wyoming, but then migrated south into the southern states, which was closer to the Wichita and Osage tribes. Before the Louisiana Purchase, the Osage lived along the Osage River. They were also scattered between the Missouri, Mississippi, and Arkansas rivers. The Osage were excellent buffalo hunters, much like the Comanche. The Osage went from being very poor to extremely wealthy after discovering local oil, but this wealth made whites envious, and these whites harbored jealous hatred towards the Osage because of their wealth. This hatred ended up leading to a mass murder of members of the Osage tribe in 1923 by a group of whites who were jealous of their wealth. This is known as the Reign of Terror. The Wichita tribe did not get along well with the Osage tribe, and they ended up moving trading posts to avoid them because they were living in a very similar area as the Osage. Today, the Osage Nation is still standing, and it is still strong in the United States.
Was one that I enjoyed. I got to learn about different Native American tribes and their backgrounds. This is something that I've always been interested in, so I'm glad that I was able to do an assignment like this one. Personally, I was assigned to research the Comanche tribe, which is one of my favorite tribes in history, given their fierce warrior background. Although I enjoyed the assignment, there were some bumps in the road. Some of these setbacks being the fact that primary source documents that relate to the tribes and their histories are very scarce today. I figure that this could be the result of various reasons that might include their lack of documentation. Maybe the documentation, if there was any, was lost when they were forced to relocate. And there also is the fact that many tribal stories were passed down through generations by word of mouth in storytellings. The storytellings can only be as reliable as the translation and interpretation throughout the generations. I would say that this was the main struggle I and many of my classmates may have faced in their research. The resources I did use were mainly from collegiate studies that were published online through the universities themselves or their libraries. These are the maps of the Comanche tribe, which I did. This next is the map of the Osage tribe. And then the Wichita, I will put that at the end because that is not uploaded for some reason. Next, I'll be going over the commonalities between the three tribes. Number one, I think that this is the most universal commonality amongst all of the tribes, was the fact that their land was taken by the U.S. government and they were forced to relocate to reservations. Number two, all three of the tribes had established villages in the Kansas area. I find this very fascinating because it probably means that these tribes commingled and traded amongst themselves. Number three, these tribes operated in a similar way when it came to their gender roles. The men were mostly hunters, while the women stayed back to tend to the homes and raise the children. Number four, another commonality between these tribes was their spiritual connection to their land. Some differences I found are as follows. While the Wichita and Comanche were blessed with horses early on, the Osage were not. This gave an advantage to the tribes that did because they could travel greater distances at a faster pace and therefore be a stronger tribe. Number two, The Wichita and Osage built beautiful, detailed huts within their villages. On the other hand, the Comanche were known to be nomads. In a matter of minutes, the Comanche could be on horseback, ready to move. I believe that this is what made the Comanche tribe so strong, is that their ties to home were loose. Their tribe was their home, regardless of where they were. Number 3. The Osage tribe was a very wealthy tribe, in comparison to the others. This was because the U.S. government had found oil on Osage land, which made the value of this land skyrocket. While things like this didn't mean much to the tribe, given that they had more of a spiritual connection to the land, it was priceless to them. The U.S. government felt they needed to access it, so they forcefully removed the Osage tribe. As a potential settler in the old days, I'd probably steer away from the Native Americans. I'd see that the land had already been established, and I'd move on. In this time, there were no laws to protect me, so I would not risk conflict with a tribe, especially those on horseback. But if I were to approach them for whatever reason, I would approach with my weapons beneath me, showing that I meant no harm. They probably won't speak my language, so I'd draw to try and communicate with them. I believe that this would be a strategic way to gain their trust and eventually learn their way of life and build a relationship. Hopefully one day I'd be able to live my life without problems from the tribe. Some potential pitfalls from the first encounter would be immediate death. These tribes were known to be fierce warriors, and I think they might kill before they ask questions to protect their own and their land.
So, for my part of the presentation, I did my research on the Wichita tribe down in Kansas and into Texas too. They were contacted by Europeans in 1541, first by Coronado in his expedition from New Spain. I think I would approach the tribe similarly to that of Coronado and the French, where I would take a very peaceful approach and trade with them, as they, especially after 1719 when they had obtained guns from the French, I would not want to fight them with guns, especially when they have horses and could probably move quicker than a lot of European soldiers could. The 3 commonalities I found between this and the other tribes that we had were they lived in the same area as the Osage tribe in the Kansas, Texas area, and so did the Comanche. Horses were very important to them, just like the Comanche, and all 3 of the tribes were very good hunters. 3 differences I found was they lived in a bit of a different place as the Comanche, as the Comanche went a bit more west than the Wichita did. But they were still in somewhat similar areas. They were not as nomadic as the Comanche were running around more and hunting, whereas the Wichita were really standing still and would go out on trips for expeditions and hunting occasionally, but not terribly often. And they had like normal dirt homes. And they were not known to be skilled warriors like the Comanche and they weren't like terribly wealthy like the Osage were. The Wichita were also known to farm a lot more than the other 2 tribes, as they would grow corn, pumpkins, squash during the summer and spring months, whereas the other ones were more known for hunting and making their wealth through trade.